It was a quiet night in the small countryside town. The sky was clear, stars shining like tiny diamonds above. Jack, a 27-year-old human engineer, stood outside his house with a mug of warm tea in his hand. He had just finished another long day. Of fixing machines at the factory, he liked the silence, here no traffic. No noise, just trees and cold wind. Suddenly, the silence broke. A loud boom echoed through the forest nearby. The ground shook slightly, and a flash of blue light lit the sky. Jack dropped his mug and stared at the sky, his heart beating fast. Something had fallen from space. Without thinking, Jack grabbed his jacket, flashlight, and a small toolbox. He ran into the forest, branches hitting his face, leaves crunching under his boots. The blue light flickered through the trees like a dying star. After 5 minutes of running, he reached a small clearing and stopped. There it was, a small, round alien pod, half buried in the dirt. Steam rose from it, and soft purple lights blinked around its edges. Jack stepped closer slowly, his breath fogging in the cold air. There was a loud hiss, and a round door opened. On the pod, out stumbled two small figures. They were both short, barely 5 feet tall, with large eyes, fur-covered ears, and long, twitching tails. One had pink hair, the other had blue, and both wore strange silver clothes. They looked like catgirls, alien catgirls. They looked up at Jack, eyes wide with confusion and fear. Jack held up his hands slowly. "It's okay. I won't hurt you," he said. The pink-haired one took a step back, hissing softly, but the blue-haired one tilted her head and stepped forward. Sniffing the air around Jack, she touched his hand gently, then said one word, "Safe." That night changed everything. Jack brought them home. What else could he do? They were cold, shaking, and clearly not dangerous. He gave them warm blankets, some bread and soup, and they ate like they hadn't eaten in days. They didn't speak much, only simple words: food, cold, safe, and stay. He learned their names: Naira pink-haired and Lilu blue-haired. They curled up together on his couch like kittens, their tails wrapped around their legs, their ears twitching at every sound. Jack sat nearby, watching them and wondering, why? Were they here? Where did they come from? Were more of them coming? Later that night, as Jack went to his bedroom, he found something surprising. Lilu was already lying in his bed, curled up under the covers. She looked at him and patted the space next to her. Jack laughed awkwardly. No, that's my bed." Lilu blinked, then whispered, "Yours." "Mine." Before Jack could say anything, Naira entered the room, growling softly. She pulled Lilu by the tail and tried to drag her off the bed. Lilu hissed, pushing back. The two began to argue in a strange alien language, their hands waving, tails whipping in the air. Jack stood there, confused, watching two alien girls fight over his bed. Eventually, Naira gave up and sat by the door. Arms crossed, Lilu stayed in the bed, smiling proudly. Jack sighed, grabbed a blanket, and slept on the couch. He had no idea what kind of mess he had just stepped into. By morning, things didn't get better. Naira tried to cook breakfast, but burned everything. Lilu tried to fix the broken sink, but flooded the kitchen. Jack walked in, looked at the mess, and said, "I need a manual for alien guests." Both girls smiled at him like nothing was wrong. They followed him everywhere: bathroom, garden, even while he was brushing his teeth. They refused to be more than 5 feet away from him at any time. If he gave one girl attention, the other would sulk. If he laughed with Lilu, Naira would growl. If he praised Naira, Lilu would cry softly in the corner. That's when Jack realized something strange. They weren't just visitors. They were competing. But for what? That night, as Jack sat in his workshop, Naira came in quietly. She touched his arm and whispered, "Naira." "Yours?" Jack blinked. "What?" she repeated. "Naira?" Yours, mate? Then Lilu appeared at the door and said, No. Lilu is mate. Mine. Jack stood up, heart pounding. What do you mean, mate? He asked. The girls looked at each other. And then at him. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark. And then, in perfect harmony, they said, Choose. Jack never thought his quiet life would turn into a war zone. But now, his peaceful home felt like a battlefield with fur, claws, and attitude. Ever since the cat girls had landed, nothing was calm. And the biggest problem wasn't food or language. It was jealousy. Naira and Lilu were both small, cute, and alien, but they were also extremely stubborn. They refused to share anything, especially Jack, one morning. Jack woke up with Naira snuggled under one arm and Lilu curled up on his chest. They glared at each other while pretending to sleep. Jack sighed. This is going to be another long day. In the kitchen, things got worse. Naira tried to cook eggs. She burned them again. Lilu made toast, but only for herself. When Jack took one bite from Lilu's toast, Naira slapped the plate from his hand. Mine. She growled. Lilu growled back, her ears twitching with anger. Jack raised both hands. Stop. Please. I just want breakfast, not a cat fight. Later that day, Jack went to the garden to fix his broken drone. Lilu followed with tools, trying to impress him, but Naira grabbed a hammer and smashed the drone, shouting, No, help him. Me help him. Jack stared at the broken machine, mouth open. You broke it on purpose. Naira lowered her head and whispered, Sorry, I want you to look only me. It didn't stop there. Lilu started putting on Jack's shirt, saying, They smelled like him. Naira began sleeping in his favorite chair, purring loudly whenever he passed, when Jack tried to go outside for air. Both girls followed him like shadows. They hissed at the neighbor's dog, chased birds, and once, even, climbed onto the roof. He had to climb up and drag them down, one by one, inside the house. The walls had scratches. Furniture was torn, and Jack's couch had a bite mark. I didn't sign up for this, he muttered, rubbing his tired eyes. But still, every time. One of the girls looked up at him with those big eyes. His heart softened again. He knew they didn't mean harm, they just didn't want to lose him. That night, Jack tried to talk to them seriously. Listen, he said, I'm just a human. I'm not used to being fought over like this. Naira sat on one side of him, tail flicking. Lilu curled on the other side, arms crossed. We choose mate, Naira said softly. You kind, strong. You fix things. Lilu nodded. You save us. We feel safe. No males on our planet like you. Jack blinked, heart beating fast. You're saying you came to Earth too? Find a mate. Both girls nodded together. We crash. You find us. Now we choose. Lilu said, but only one bond, Naira whispered. One girl. One mate. Forever. Jack stood up slowly. That's not fair, he said. I didn't know. I didn't agree. I care about both of you. Lilu's eyes filled with tears. Naira looked down, silent. Then Lilu said in a small voice, If you know, choose. We both leave? Jack froze. Leave. Naira nodded. Our people. Bond is for life. If not with you, we go alone. The next few days were quiet, too quiet. No fighting. No teasing, no tail pulling. The girls stayed apart from each other and from Jack. They cooked separately, sat in silence, and slept far away from him. Jack missed their laughter, their weird, alien words, their silly fights. He realized something he didn't want to admit. He had started to love both of them. In different ways, but one night, something happened that changed everything again. Jack was in his workshop when he heard a loud crash from the living room. He rushed out and saw the front door open. Naira and Lilu stood in the doorway, staring into the dark forest. Their tails were stiff, ears flat. Jack followed their eyes and saw glowing red lights between the trees. Something moved tall, metal, and silent. Naira whispered, "They found us." Jack's blood ran cold. "Who?" asked. Lilu grabbed his arm tightly. "Not good people. They want to take us back. They punish us for choosing human." Suddenly, a high-pitched sound filled the air like a siren underwater. The lights got closer. Jack pulled both girls behind him, heart pounding inside. Now, but before they could run, a strange voice echoed from the darkness. "You do not belong with him. Come quietly." Jack stood firm. "No, they're with me now." The voice answered coldly. "Then you've made your choice, human. Prepare to suffer." The shadows moved closer, and Jack knew. This fight wasn't over. Jack locked the door behind them, hands shaking. Outside, the forest was too quiet now. The strange red lights had disappeared, but he knew the danger hadn't. Naira and Lilu sat on the floor, their tails wrapped tightly around their legs. Their ears twitched, eyes full of fear, not the playful kind he had seen before. This was real, ancient fear. Jack knelt beside them. "Who were they?" he asked softly. Lilu looked down, her voice like a whisper. "Hunters. From our world." "They don't believe in choice," Naira added. "We escaped to find a mate. It is forbidden." Jack's heart dropped. "They want to take you back, even if it hurts you." Lilu nodded. "They will erase our minds. Make us bond with someone we don't want." Naira looked up at him, tears in her glowing eyes. "They think human love is weak, but it's not. That's why we ran." Jack sat on the couch, his mind racing. He had just wanted a quiet life. Now he was in the middle of a cosmic drama with two alien cat girls who had broken the rules for him. He looked at them, curled up together, shivering like scared kittens. They were beautiful, kind, strange, and they had chosen him. But he still didn't understand one thing. "What does bonding mean?" he asked. Naira slowly stood up, walked to a small bag they had brought from the crash site. She pulled out a glowing silver necklace with a crystal in the center. "This is Bondstone," she said. "If we put this on you, we are yours forever." Jack swallowed hard. "What happens to the other one?" Lilu looked away. "She can never bond again. Once the stone chooses, the other becomes alone. Always alone." Her voice trembled. "It hurts the soul. No fixing. No second chance." Silence filled the room. Jack stood and paced. His chest felt tight, his breath short. How could he make a choice like that? He liked Nirush, was brave, bold, always trying to protect him, but he also cared for Lilu, gentle, smart, always thinking before acting. He didn't want to hurt either of them. "I need time," he said, voice barely a whisper. Naira lowered her head. Lilu nodded slowly. "You have until moon sets," she said. "Then the hunters return." Jack walked outside, the cold air biting his skin. The stars looked so normal, as if nothing had changed, but his world was spinning behind him. The window glowed with soft alien light. Two girls from another galaxy were waiting for his heart, and he didn't know if he had enough of it to give just one. Suddenly, he heard footsteps behind him. It was Naira. She walked up quietly and took his hand. "I won't force you," she said, "but I wanted to show you this." She held up a small holostone and tapped it. An image appeared of her world, of young cat girls in line, being told who to marry. No smiles, no love, just control. Naira looked at him and whispered, "I wanted something real, not something chosen for me. That's why I risked everything." A few minutes later, Lilu stepped outside too. She looked at Naira, then at Jack. "No tricks," she said. "I just want to speak." She held up her own holostone. This one showed her alone, studying human languages, learning Earth customs. I watched your world before we landed, she said softly. I dreamed of being free. And when I saw you, I knew. Jack looked between them. 2 stories, 2 souls, 1 choice. The night grew colder, but inside his chest, something burned, not just confusion, but love. They weren't just cute aliens anymore. They were people, and they had given up everything to be here, to be with him, to be chosen. When Jack walked back inside, the girls followed silently. He looked at the glowing necklace resting on the table. He could only choose one, and break the heart of the other. Or, wait, he said, suddenly turning to them, what if I refuse to bond? What if I choose neither, to save you both? Naira shook her head sadly. Then the hunters will take us. Without bond, we are unclaimed. We will be punished worse than death. Lilu added, you must choose, Jack, or we lose everything. He closed his eyes, breathed deeply, then walked over to the table and picked up the necklace. He turned to face them, his heart heavy but sure. I still don't understand everything, he said, but I won't let you go back to pain. I will protect one of you, even if it hurts. Naira stepped forward, eyes wide. Lilu reached out her hand too, and Jack whispered, I choose. Jack held the glowing necklace in his hands. The silver chain shimmered with strange light. Warm to the touch, Naira and Lilu stood before him. Silent, their eyes locked on his face. Time felt frozen, till a loud crash shattered it all. Boom. The front window exploded into 1,000 shards. Smoke filled the room, and a blinding red light followed. Jack dropped the necklace as a strong force knocked him backward. He hit the wall, dazed, ears ringing. When he opened his eyes, he saw 2 tall, shadowy figures in black armor. Their helmets hid their faces, but their glowing red eyes burned through the smoke. Each one held a long weapon that buzzed with energy. One reached forward and grabbed Lilu. The other pinned Naira down. No, Jack shouted, trying to get up, but another shockwave knocked him flat. His body went numb for a moment. He couldn't move. Naira screamed, fighting like a wild animal. Her claws scratched the armored alien, sparks flying. Lilu kicked and cried, let go of me. But the aliens didn't speak. They simply moved with robotic focus. Jack crawled toward the table, reaching for the dropped necklace. His fingers trembled, blood dripping from a cut on his forehead. One of the armored invaders stepped on his hand. Pressing hard, Jack gritted his teeth, but didn't scream. The alien spoke in a deep, mechanical voice. You are not part of this, human. Step away. Jack looked up, eyes burning with anger. They're mine. They chose me. He yelled. The alien leaned closer. They're not yours to keep. Then the 2 girls were dragged out the door. Naira shouted, Jack, don't let them take us. Lilu screamed his name again and again, but the armored aliens vanished into the trees with terrifying speed. The glowing red lights faded into the darkness, leaving Jack alone. For a long moment, Jack lay there, breathing hard. Then, like a switch flipping, something inside him changed. He wasn't confused anymore. He wasn't scared. He was furious. He stood up slowly, wiping the blood from his face. He grabbed a flashlight, his old toolkit, and an old pulse gun hidden under the stairs. Jack may not have been a soldier, but he was human, and when humans care, they fight. He followed the crushed path through the woods, broken branches, footprints in the mud, and faint blue sparks from alien tech guided him. His flashlight flickered, but he didn't stop. Rain started to fall, cold and sharp, but it didn't slow him down. Deep in the forest, he found a clearing. A hidden alien ship sat in the center, small, gray, and shaped like a claw. Its lights blinked slowly, and a low hum echoed from inside. Jack crouched in the shadows, watching. Inside the ship, Lilu and Naira were trapped in energy cages, Their arms hung limp, their eyes closed. Jack's heart twisted. He didn't know if they were awake or worse. Two aliens stood near them, talking in a strange language. One of them held the bonding necklace in his hand, twisting it slowly. Jack felt rage build in his chest. He whispered to himself, "I'm not letting this end here." He checked his pulse, gun old, rusty, but it worked. He took out a magnetic wrench and a sonic spark plug from his belt. He remembered something Naira had told him earlier. Energy cages. Weak from below. Touch floor. Break fast. Okay. Crawled toward the ship silently, heart pounding. The entrance was guarded by another alien, but Jack tossed a tool to the left. The alien turned toward the noise and Jack struck him from behind with the wrench. The alien fell with a crash. And Jack ran into the ship. Inside, alarms started to beep, red lights flashing. The two remaining aliens turned in surprise. Jack fired the pulse gun. One alien dropped instantly. The other lunged at him, grabbing his arm. Jack struggled, but used the sonic plug to shock the alien's helmet crack. The helmet shattered, and the alien collapsed unconscious. Jack rushed to the cages. He knelt by Naira's first, touching the base with the tool buzz. Pop! The field vanished. Then he did the same for Lilu. They both collapsed into his arms, breathing but weak. Jack. Naira whispered, "You came." "Of course I did," Jack said, holding them tight. "You chose me, remember? It's my turn to fight. For you." Sirens roared through the ship. More were coming. Jack looked at the exit, then at the necklace still lying near the control panel. He grabbed it, held it tight, and looked down at the girls. He whispered, "I know what I have to do." Held the silver bonding necklace tightly in his hand. Naira and Lilu lay weak in his arms, their soft breathing quick and shallow. The red lights inside the alien ship flashed brighter now. A robotic voice shouted warnings in a strange language. Jack looked toward the exit. More were coming, but he wasn't going to run. Not this time. He laid the girls down gently behind a metal table. "Stay low," he whispered. "No matter what happens, don't come out." They blinked slowly. Barely able to nod, Jack gripped the pulse gun in one hand and the wrench in the other. His heart beat like a drum in his chest. But his mind was sharp, now focused, human. Ready? The door hissed open, and 3 armored aliens stormed inside. Jack dove behind a wall of crates. Breathing fast, he peeked through the gap and spotted a weak panel above them, just like he remembered from Naira's old ship. "Energy pipes," he whispered to himself. "Overload them." Boom. He pulled a small spark grenade from his tool belt. He had made it years ago as a joke. Now it might save all their lives. He set the timer and tossed it up toward the panel. Boom. Sparks exploded from the ceiling, and one alien was knocked flat. The other 2 turned in confusion just as Jack rolled out and fired. Zap. One more down. But the last one charged, roaring in rage. Jack dodged left. Then right. He wasn't a fighter, but he was fast. The alien tackled him. And they crashed into a wall. Pain shot through Jack's ribs, but he fought back with everything he had. He slammed the wrench into the alien's helmet. Once, twice crack. The faceplate shattered, and the alien fell with a growl. Jack leaned against the wall, gasping for air. His body hurt everywhere, shoulder bruised, legs shaking. But he was still standing. He limped back to the girls and dropped beside them. "I got them," he whispered, smiling through blood. Naira reached out weakly and touched his cheek. "You fight like fire," she said softly. Lilu wiped his brow and whispered, "No male ever fought for us like this." Jack looked down at the glowing necklace in his hand. Still shimmered. "Waiting, maybe," he said, voice hoarse. "It's not just about choosing you. Maybe it's about you choosing me, too, after seeing who I really am." Suddenly, A loud engine roared overhead. The ship's roof split open, and a larger alien vessel hovered above. It was black, with sharp red wings like a beast in the sky. A voice echoed from above. "Surrender the bond, surrender the females, or be destroyed." Jack stood slowly, his legs weak, but his heart strong. He stepped into the center of the room, bloodied, breathing hard, and raised the necklace high. "No," he shouted, "you don't get to choose for them anymore. They're not yours. They're not property. They're people just like me." There was silence for a moment. Then lasers shot down from the hovering ship, aiming to destroy the pod and everyone in it. But Jack was ready. He pressed the ship's internal power core panel and ripped out the coolant wires. The system overloaded. Boom. The pod exploded in a burst of blue fire. The big alien ship was pushed back by the blast, smoke rising into the sky. When the smoke cleared, Jack was on the ground, holding Naira and Lilu tight. He had thrown his body over them during the blast. He was burned, bruised, but alive. So were they. Rain started to fall again, soft and cold. The big alien ship didn't return to damage. Too shocked, they had underestimated the human. Naira lifted her head, her voice soft. "You protected us. Ush. You risked your life. Now we know who we belong to." Lilu nodded slowly, eyes wet with tears. "But who do you choose, Jack?" Jack looked at them both. 2 hearts, 2 souls. He loved them both, but the bond could only be made with one. He held out the necklace and said, "I choose the one who will walk with me, even if the world is against us." Naira and Lilu looked at each other. No more anger, no more hate, only respect and pain and love. Naira smiled softly and stepped back. "You carry her heart." "I will carry the memory," she whispered, and she kissed Lilu's forehead, then turned away into the forest, her tail low, her back strong. Lilu trembled as Jack placed the necklace around her neck. It glowed bright, warm, and soft. Their eyes met. No more questions, no more fear, only truth. "I'm yours now," she whispered. Jack smiled. "No. We're each other's," he said, and as the stars broke through the clouds, they stood in the ruins of a battle, not broken but together, human and alien, bonded by choice, and by something far stronger than rules. Love. The forest was quiet. Again, no ships in the sky, no glowing red eyes. Only the sound of wind through trees and raindrops falling gently on leaves. Jack sat on a broken log just outside the ruins of the alien pod. Beside him sat Lilu, her small hand resting in his. The silver bonding necklace glowed softly on her neck. She leaned on his shoulder, warm and calm, but Jack wasn't smiling. His eyes were fixed on the trees where Naira had disappeared. She had walked away without looking back. No tears, no words after her goodbye, just one soft sentence that echoed. In his heart, "You carry her heart. I will carry the memory." Lilu stayed silent too. She knew Jack was hurting. Even as he held her close, she whispered, "You miss her." Jack nodded. "She was brave, fiery, wild. She drove me crazy. But she never gave up on me." Lilu looked down, her ears low. "She gave you to me, not because I was better, but because she loved you too much to fight." Jack turned and gently held her face. "You don't need to compare, Lilu. You were both incredible, but I could only choose one." Lilu didn't cry. She simply placed her hand over his heart and whispered, "I will carry both of us. You and her memory too." That evening, Jack and Lilu returned to the house. It was a mess: broken furniture, cracked walls, scorched floor tiles. But it was still their home. Jack patched the windows. Lilu swept the floor. They didn't say much, but the silence between them was peaceful. The kind that comes when two people no longer need words. They built a fire and cooked together, Lilu burned the rice. Jack dropped a pan. They laughed, just a little. It felt good to laugh again. Later, Jack placed a soft pillow by the window on it. He laid a small, folded cloth near his favorite scarf. It smelled faintly of the forest and her wild. "Spicy scent," he whispered. "This corner will be hers. Always." That night, Lilu curled up in Jack's bed, her tail gently brushing his leg. She didn't speak much, just wrapped her arms around him and held him tight. Jack brushed her soft blue hair and whispered, "Are you sure you're okay, Lilu?" Nodded slowly. "I feel peace. Not because I won, but because we chose with love before sleep took her." She whispered, "You make me feel whole, human." Jack held her tighter. "You made me feel chosen, Lilu. I never knew how much I needed that." But the next morning brought an unexpected knock at the door. Jack opened it slowly, half expecting another alien warrior or glowing drone. But it was something else entirely. A small human girl stood there, maybe 7 years old, holding a package. Wrapped in strange cloth, she looked up and said, "A lady in the woods gave this to me. Said it's for the human who protected hearts." Jack took the bundle with trembling hands. "Did she say her name?" The girl nodded. She said, "Her name was Naira." Then she smiled and ran off down the path. Jack opened the bundle on the table. Inside was a hand-carved wooden figure of 3 people: Naira, Kalu, and Jack sitting under a tree. He traced the shapes with his fingers. His chest tight with emotion. On the bottom, a small message was burned into the wood. "You were never just a choice. You were my home too." Lilu came and stood beside him, tears in her eyes. Jack looked at her and whispered, "She's not coming back, but she left a part of her behind." Lilu nodded, "And I'll carry it with you. Always." Later that day, Jack and Lilu began rebuilding the house together. They turned the old living room into a shared space, half human, half alien. Jack added Earth-style paintings. Lilu decorated with glowing crystals and hanging charms from her world. They planted a small tree in the backyard under it. They buried a sealed box holding Naira's scarf, her drawings, and the wooden carving. Jack spoke softly as they buried it. "Goodbye, Naira. You were fierce. You were kind. You were ours." Lilu added a single glowing flower from her home world and whispered, "May her soul travel far and find love again in another sky." That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He stared at the stars outside his window. He wondered if Naira was still out there somewhere, watching, smiling, and he hoped she had found peace too. Lilu came and laid beside him, her fingers slipping into his. "She's proud of you," she said softly. Jack looked at her, "And I'm proud of you for choosing to stay." They kissed gently. No rush, no fire, just warmth. Their bond wasn't about being perfect. It was about understanding, trust, and choosing each other through the pain and in the quiet of the night with starlight on their skin. Jack knew the hardest choice had become the strongest love. Not by accident, but by heart. 2 months had passed since the sky stopped burning and the forest grew quiet again. The war was over, not just the fight with the alien hunters, but the one inside Jack's heart too. Now, life was slow, peaceful. Almost normal, except nothing was really normal not when you shared your home with an alien cat girl who once fell from the stars. Jack stood in the garden, fixing a broken fence post. Lilu sat nearby, tail swaying as she read an Earth book titled How to Be Human in 12 Easy Steps. She had only made it to step 4. Don't chase birds in public, but she was trying. That's what Jack loved most about her. Not her beauty, not her sharp alien mind, but the way she tried to understand his world, just to be close. To him, the house had changed too. What was once a broken mess of claw marks and smashed windows was now a cozy home. Photos lined the walls, Jack with tools in hand. Lilu eating noodles with chopsticks badly. One photo sat framed near the fireplace, a blurry image of Naira. Mid-jump, smiling wide, hair flying. Jack had taken it the day before she left. Every time he passed it, he nodded and whispered, "Still with us." In the evenings, they cooked together. Lilu had learned to make pancakes with too much syrup, and Jack had learned to enjoy alien root stew still tasted like dirt. After dinner, they would sit by the fire, her head resting on his chest. Sometimes they spoke, sometimes they didn't, but there was always warmth. One night, Jack gave her a small box. Inside was a handmade necklace, simple. No glowing stone, just carved wood and soft leather. He said, "You already wear your bond. Now this is mine." Lilu smiled, eyes watery. "It's not shiny," she teased. "It doesn't need to be," Jack replied. "It's real." One morning, they found a strange metal egg near the garden. Lilu froze, her ears flat. "It's a scout drone," she said, "from my world." "Or Nira's." Jack approached it slowly, picked it up, and found a message burned into the metal. "I live. I lead now. Thank you, fire human. Why nay, I may return." And Lilu smiled softly. She found her path. Jack nodded. "And she's watching us from somewhere beyond the sky." They placed the drone inside a glass jar, like a time capsule next to it. They lit a tiny blue lantern, a tradition from Lilu's people, one that meant a soul has found peace. As time passed, people in the town started to notice. The once lonely Jack now smiled more, waved at neighbors, and even joined a local builders club. Of course, everyone asked about the strange girl with the ears and tail. Some thought she was wearing a costume. Others whispered she was some new kind of tech assistant. But Jack never corrected them, because how do you explain love that came from the stars? One rainy afternoon, Lilu stood in the doorway, watching the drops fall. Jack walked up behind her, wrapping an arm around her waist. She leaned into him and said, "Jack, I want something. Tell me," he said gently. She looked up, her eyes glowing softly. "I want to build a family with you." Jack froze, surprised but not scared. He nodded slowly. "Are you sure?" She smiled. "On my world, a bond was enough. But here, I want more. I want ours." Weeks later, they began working on the nursery. Paint on the walls, soft pillows on the floor, stars on the ceiling. Lilu sewed tiny blankets with her claws. Jack built a rocking chair from old wood and newer hope. They didn't know if the baby would have ears or a tail or eyes like stars. They didn't care. What mattered was the love that filled the room, a love born not of fate or power, but of choice. On the night the baby came, the stars were bright and full. Lilu held Jack's hand tightly as she whispered through pain and joy, and when the cry filled the room, Jack's heart nearly stopped. He saw a tiny face with soft fur on the cheeks, eyes like Lilu's, and his smile. He held the baby close and whispered, "You were made from love, fought for, chosen, and you are the future of two worlds." Later, Jack sat in the garden, the baby in his arms. Lilu sat beside him, her head on his shoulder. The wind was soft, the stars shining above. Jack looked up and said softly, "Hey Naira, we did it. We made something good." Lilu nodded. "Our home, our family, our forever." And the wind, for just a second, felt like a whisper back.